Right team, welcome back to the Happy to Health podcast with myself, Danny Williams, Dan Hancock and Ben Lewis. Now, where do I even start with today's guest? First and foremost, he's a good friend of mine. He's my agent, my manager, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, he's a brother to me. He's like family. And we dissect his career, his upbringing, where he sees the empire going. It all is revealed in this amazing conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Strap yourselves in and yeah, enjoy.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Happy to Health podcast with myself, Ben Lewis, Dan Hancock and Danny Williams. Now this week we are joined by a very special guest, a very good friend of the podcast, the owner and founder of Alpha Talent Group, Mr. Jake Lee. How are you doing, mate?
Ben, thank you for that. I'm good, thank you. How are you boys? You good?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Jakey boy. I'm doing good. Happy to be here.
Good.
Thanks for joining us.
No, we're buzzing to have you on, mate. Really good to have you on. So for our listeners, obviously the three of us know you really well, worked together quite a bit this year. So let's give our listeners a bit of a background on yourself. You've started Alpha Talent Group.
Yep.
Danny's obviously one of your clients. What gave you the idea to get into creating a talent group, basically? What kind of gave rise to the birth of Alpha Talent?
So I guess it stems from my background of always being in sales. So initially it was financial recruitment for me straight from A-levels. I never went to university. Learned the kind of skills, I guess, that you need to be a salesperson in that job. You know, the thick skin, you know, the relentless chasing of people, you know, the hard hours that you have to work. After there, I went into property with for a company with a friend of mine who owned it that I knew very well. And it was kind of a nicer way of sales because it was a bit warmer. People were a bit nicer to you in that industry than they are in recruitment. But still for me, that wasn't it. I wanted something more. I wanted something better. And I always knew in my head that the pathway within agency was there. I just didn't know what it would be. I'm a big football fan. So an opportunity came up to be a football agent. So like anyone would, I jumped at the chance and I went for it thinking it was glitz, glamour, it's everything that everyone thinks. It's absolutely not, by the way. And I jumped into that for a little bit of time and it really opened my eyes into what I guess industry and agencies are like in that space. Brutal, like really, really brutal. It's not what you think it is from looking at it on the TV or hearing about it in the press and the papers, but it's still fun. Don't get me wrong, I had a great time. I just realised that at the time of being 20 years old, it wasn't the right career choice for me. And even though I was at, you know, one of the biggest agencies in the world, it still wasn't where I needed to be at that point. So I came away from there and that's when I set Alpha up, which is going to be 3 years in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
So 2019, January the 25th is when we officially incorporated the company. Right. And initially it was going to be a music-led company. So we had an artist with my business partner at the time who was up and coming, didn't have any management, didn't really have any direction, but needed a bit of a push in that right direction to get where she needed to be. We got her along, got her to get a record deal. It just wasn't the right time to sign. She wasn't kind of ready for that stage. And unfortunately, things sort of faltered away. By this point, I was back at my property job just to kind of make sure I had a sort of steady income at the time, but was very much doing Alpha on the side and, you know, on evenings and on weekends. And I was watching Love Island one year, it was the year before Danny's. I could see all the deals flying about, you know, you get all of this in the press all the time, you hear about it. And I just thought to myself, right, you know, why not give this a crack? You know, we've got the company, I know what I want to do, the name's there. I was a massive fan of the name, that's another story, but I was a big fan of that name. So I was like, I have to use this somehow, you know, why not try it in, you know, the TV world, the reality space. So we did, and I messaged everybody from that series. I got one reply back, which was fine because that was all I needed at that time. You know, I didn't need any more than that to give me any kind of confidence or hope. I was like, right, one is good enough for me. You met that one person and from there you get introduced to numerous other people and then it's literally all about your networking skills. You know, how good are you in a room full of people? Can you form relationships? Can you form connections? And thankfully, you know, I was, and that's where we are today. But I'd say a massive turning point into where I knew we were on the right path was, you know, and not just saying it because he's here, but Danny joining us was a big thing because his series was kind of the peak, I feel, at Love Island where most people were watching it. You know, it was heightened in the press. Everyone was talking about it. And when we met, we kind of had that instant connection and got on straight away. And that was a real sort of...
Is that true? You thought we met in the villa. I'd like to couple up with Jake.
Straight away. Jake turned Danny's head.
But seriously, we connected, and it solidified to me that I was on the right path. This is what I was meant to do, and you know, Danny's been with us ever since, and since then the business has grown, and we're here now looking to expand again. Every year there's new avenues to look at, but for me it was always a case of, right, crack this, and then I want that kind of global agency. And I often joke about sort of taking over and making it into a massive agency, but that's a big thing for me, and I do want to achieve that. But we need to get 1% better every day. I know you guys preach that a lot about just improving yourself, but it's the same for business. If you're doing better than you did yesterday, even if it's a small little thing, then that's going to amount to a lot over time. Yeah. So for us, it's now all about growth. We know what we do very well. We've got to stick at that and just grow to be as big as we can.
Wow. I've got a question, Jake. And obviously, me and you talk all the time. We're good friends. And I've seen you go from a relatively small agency to a massive agency in the space of like 18 months, pretty much. And the growth has been ridiculous. I want to ask you, because I've never asked you this before, genuinely, how do you keep yourself kind of contained and not get carried away? Because the growth has been so mad. Like you said, like a couple of years ago, you was nowhere near this space. Now you're one of the biggest agencies in the UK. You've signed not just myself, but other people in this space who have got big things going on. How do you kind of keep your ambition and keep your drive and keep your hunger kind of tame enough to kind of ensure that you stay relaxed about your direction and where you're headed?
Good question.
A lot of people in your position at 24 years old would be very carried away.
Yeah. It's an easy industry to get carried away in, especially as you start 4 years ago from just watching it passively, watching those shows normally as, I guess you can call it as a fan of those shows. And then you come into having it as a professional job. But I see that more as motivation, as a positive thing than anything. It's like, I'm so lucky that I get to do this for work, so I can enjoy it on the side. It's almost like when I was in football, when you become part of the business, you can't actually enjoy a game as a fan anymore because you're seing it from all different angles. It's kind of the same.
Because you're a Spurs fan.
No, I can't enjoy that now anyway. But you can't really sit there and watch a show and not now think of it from a business perspective. And I guess that's both good and bad. But for me, I see it as a positive because I'm not letting myself get carried away, like Danny said, and my brain's wandering. I'm still focused on what I'm doing. But what goes through my head when I watch these shows now is like, right, how can that benefit my clients? How can that benefit us? What can we do? What's the next move here? What's the angle? And it's important to always think like that. But to stay grounded for me, it's like, I look forward to every day being different and different opportunities coming up, different problems as well. I do like problem solving. They come up a lot in our industry and you've got to think on your feet really quickly, which keeps you sharp. But I think that's how I stay grounded, is just waiting for every day, but enjoying it and knowing that I'm very lucky and fortunate to be in this position. And I'm not naive to the fact that anyone in my position, could have that taken away at any moment. So you've got to always make sure you're on top of your game. And as long as it's taken us to build this, reputation, like you say, in a short space of time, it's even quicker to lose it. It can be gone in seconds. So I know that I always have to be mindful of that. And the reputation that we've built, it's been fantastic and phenomenal. But again, that can always get better, and it will get better. And we'll never let that slip. But I think the motivational aspect for me is what keeps me grounded.
Yeah, amazing. I think one of the things that certainly Dan and I noticed when we first met both of you, actually, and certainly with yourself, Jake, and your movement with Alpha Talent, it's like you genuinely care about your clients. Do you know what I mean? Because you are a genuinely nice guy. I hope you don't mind me saying, but I think the connections and relationships that you make with your clients I would probably say it's a bit of outside of the norm for the industry. I think we've mentioned before, it's a bit cutthroat. It can be a bit, I don't know the right word to describe it. It can be
when I think of, if I was to think of an agent, I think of a way, I know this is obviously my naivety about the industry, but you would think about the way it's portrayed in the media.
Yeah.
But it's portrayed a lot of the time in the media that way because it is true. A lot of exploitation. Yeah. Those are the first things that come to mind. So yeah, I think when we first met you guys, we thought that was absolutely incredible. And on that as well, I mean, that was only May. And what we've seen since then has been ridiculous. Like the growth has been absolutely incredible.
Yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate that.
And is that something you've consciously focused on as a USP almost, I guess, for your business to actually have that proper caring element for the people that you work with? Absolutely. I think that's one of the bases of why I set the business up. I noticed in the industry there was a gap, like you said, probably a couple of agencies that have been around for 20, 25 years. They've got a ton of experience on me. I'm not denying that. But you kind of feel like there was room for an agency to come in with a fresh sort of young approach, but have this mindset of not just creating a business relationship with its clients, but also a friendship as well, like you said. And then that then forms a really sort of strong trust, stronger than it would be just between friends or just between colleagues. It's a different type of trust when you've got both
mixed into one. And that was really what I wanted to achieve, because like you just said, Dan, the stigma around agents in any industry, whether it's football or any sport or even this industry, is that people are just out for themselves. They're just about the money. They don't care about the talent. You know, talents have a shelf life. Once they're gone, they're gone. No one cares about them. And that's sad, you know, and then that's how you get all the mental health problems that I'm sure we'll get on to talking about. And that in this industry particularly, and I'm sure Danny's seen it as well, when you get bad management, your mind can spiral, because you go on a show like Love Island, you come out not knowing anything, you know, you haven't got a handbook, they don't teach you what to do, you just get thrown into it. You get given this platform, you have no idea how to use it. And without the right guidance and the right management, it can very easily fall away, and you can very easily hit into a spiral of just not knowing what to do, start having problems, and then that can lead into mental problems as well. So for us, as much as it is about succeeding in work and making sure we're able to help our clients, you know, achieve their dreams and goals, it's also to make sure that mentally everyone's, you know, okay. Because there are going to be times when you're not. Everyone's the same. You know, I'm sure all of us sat around this table have experienced it at some point. But as much as that's part of a manager's job, I feel, in this modern day and age, to look after that talent, you know, from a business perspective, it also is from a personal side as well. And that's a key thing within our industry, because ultimately, if these guys aren't mentally able to work, they're not in the good headspace, you know, they're not going to make money anyway. So our priority has to be them. You know, the priority has to be their mental health, that they're in the right frame of mind to go to work. And then that is a big part of what we do, and why I set the agency up was I noticed that gap, and people that I'd spoken to, done some research beforehand, most of the common things that people would say was, I left this agent because of that reason, or I didn't like this person because of that. And I needed to break that stigma. And I think that's what I'm not going to sit here and say we've done it, you know, we haven't, but I feel like that's what we're starting to achieve now, is having the feedback that we get from the likes of Danny and other people that are looked after by us, is we are very much against that stigma. And for me, that's a proud moment, because that's always what I wanted to achieve.
Yeah. What, how important has it been for your career, and also for you personally, to have someone like Jake with you? And also, actually, what was it that attracted? What is it that you liked about Jake straight away when you first met?
Dark hair.
Stop it.
The swimming trunks you had on.
No, for me, it's a game changer. And just before I even met Jake, I was agency-less. So I had an agency when I came out the Villa. I won't name names, but it wasn't a pleasant experience. I felt very much like I wasn't being looked after very well, and it wasn't very personal. It was I felt very much almost like, how do I even describe it? Almost like just a token that I was being used to do jobs when it suited the agent. And there was no sense of like personal care. And for me, the kind of personality type that I am, the kind of person that I am, and it just didn't match. It just didn't match up at all. So when I was going days without a message from my agent, and I was thinking, what's going on? Have I fallen off? Like, no one cares or whatever. And I was getting stressed. The potential for that spiral was almost always there. And even when a job did come through, it was quite kind of like, right, you got to be here at this time, go and do this job. You're lucky to have it. It was it was a strange position to be in. I didn't like it at all. And it lasted literally 2, 3 or 4 months. And then I decided to quit that agency. And I was like, I'd rather be on my own than be with the wrong agency. So now I spent about 4, 5, 6 months after that without an agency. Appreciate it. I didn't have as much work at all, and I was just kind of happy, just trying to find myself. And then me and Jake connected via Instagram.
Yep.
And at this point, you probably had, I don't know how many clients you had at this point, Jake.
I think it was only 2 or 3 at that time. Yeah.
And with respect to the clients that he had, no one was like huge. And the thing that stood out for me was the way that he spoke about the clients that he had. He held them in high regard. He shared their jobs and their deals and their posts on his social media account. And I just got the impression that this guy cared. I was like, this guy cares about his clients, and he has a level of kind of respect for his clients that I kind of wish I had when I first came out of the Villa. And I was like, you know what? It won't hurt to just reach out. And I don't know if I just liked a post, or maybe I commented on a post, or did I message you? I can't actually remember, Jake.
I think it was a message. I remember getting it, and I was just going to the cinema at the time, and I was like, I saw it. I was like, is this real? Like, is this? Because obviously I just finished watching.
This story, by the way.
I just finished watching your series, and I was like, I don't think I'd messaged you yet, or perhaps maybe I had and you hadn't seen it. But yeah, I think you'd reached out and was like, look, are you up for a chat? It was nothing more than that. Like you said, it was just a meeting. And for me, that was a killer moment, because that had gone from the shift of us reaching out to everybody to actually finally some of our work being recognised for someone to reach out to us. And I think you said at the time you'd seen us on somebody else's page, or we'd popped up somewhere, and that's why you reached out.
And at this point as well, I wouldn't say rock bottom. I don't want to be like, you know, extremist and be like, oh my God, I was absolutely on the edge. Like, but I wasn't in a good place, and I most certainly wasn't even coming close to fulfilling my potential, let alone I wasn't even realizing what I wanted to achieve even. And when I went and met Jake for the first time, he was with your old partner at the time, Jake.
Yeah.
And you guys kind of let me speak about what I wanted to achieve in life. You just like, what do you want from this? And I just sat and spoke for like 15, 20 minutes about how my journey was, what I want to achieve in life. And I remember speaking for like 15 minutes straight, and you just sat there and listened. And I was like, even that is huge. Perfect. Like you just sat there and listened to me talk about what I want to achieve in life. That means a lot. That means a hell of a lot to me. And straight away there was the element of trust, an element of care. And I came away from that meeting not knowing too much more about the agency, about your goals, about how big you want to be, the clients you got. I didn't know any of this, but I knew I trusted you. And that was a huge, huge reason why I wanted to meet you again. And then we signed, and the rest is history.
Yeah. I think when we first met you as well, because we were coming down to see you and Mac, and I walked up to you and I saw you and I was like, we met at a gym, didn't we? And then I walked up and I was like,
do you remember that?
I remember this, yeah.
You came over and you were like, all right, boys, like shook hands and all that type of stuff. And I was like, all right. I was like, do you work here? Because, but then once you said, you're like, oh no, like I'm Mac and I'm Danny's agent. Like I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? I was like, what are you doing training with them at the gym?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, we just finished the session, haven't we?
People won't have any idea of, like, as much as agents have this reputation of being kind of like cutthroat, like you said, Ben, and quite vicious and money grabbing and all this kind of stuff. The relationship I've got with Jake, and he has with all of his clients, he's a friend first.
Yeah.
I don't know any manager in the world who could be invited to Mykonos for his client's birthday party and then go to Dubai.
Great trip.
Very great trip. But as much as you're my manager, like I didn't have any kind of, oh God, I can't drink in front of him, or how might he interpret my behavior or anything like that. It was like, you're my friend first and foremost. I'm going on holiday for my birthday. Do you want to come? And it was like, oh, also he's my manager. That's kind of cool. And I feel so lucky to be in a position where I get to text you about football and about, I don't know, I can send you memes on Instagram and we can laugh and joke. And at the same time, we have this professional relationship as well. And I just love that kind of, I get to have both. And I feel so privileged to have that. I just want to say that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's reciprocated for me, because I think it's much better in this industry where there is so much stigma around, you know, like you say, Ben and Danny, money grabbing and, you know, people always looking out to get you, that I feel like there's a sense of security for the talent, knowing that if they've got someone they're very close to on a personal level, but also handling their business affairs, it just makes the whole process a lot easier to handle. And like you said, puts that trust. That trust wasn't built just in one day, by the way. I know, you know, we're sat here, nearly a couple of years later, but took time to build that. But then once it's there and you just get stronger and stronger all the time, you know, it's almost like it's meant to happen. It's meant to be in that sense. And I think that's the big thing that I wanted to break in this industry, was this stigma of, you know, you don't have to hate your agent. You don't have to always slag your agent off. You know, you can be nice about them. There are nice ones out there, you know, they just don't get the recognition. And that was what I really wanted to do. And, you know, it's nice to hear that, you know, from you, Danny, really nice that we are achieving that. And, you know, what I set out to do is coming to life.
Yeah. Does it frustrate you at all? Because obviously it's something that you're passionate about. It's not as if it's just this mission, like it is genuinely you as a person. It's not like you need to wake up in the morning and be like, right, I need to be a really nice guy today, like you are anyway. But does it frustrate you at all? Because you'll work closely with lots of other people within this industry, and people don't have that same mentality. Does it annoy you, or is it more actually like, well, actually that's even more fuel to my fire because I know what I'm doing is so important?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it does frustrate me when I speak to somebody that tells me these bad experiences that they're currently having or they've had, because I know that's not how, you know, the relationship should be between manager and client. But then at the same time, you're right, it fuels me to then know what not to do. And obviously I know that already, but it just reaffirms it in my head that what we're doing is the right way to do it and the right thing. When I hear these other stories, and it just sort of doesn't make me feel good, but it makes me feel like we're on the right track. And I feel like the more we can do this, and, you know, like I say, the more clients we can take on. And, you know, I'm under no disillusion. I want the agency to grow, but grow in the right way, you know, not grow in a sense of we're taking on too many clients to be able to manage. I want to be able to take on, you know, more staff to be able to manage clients so that everyone gets that personal attention. Because I know for myself, you know, I don't want to ever get in a position where I'm stretched too thin. And where I can't, you know, attend to everybody like I'm used to. So for me, it's not going to be me personally taking on the clients. It's going to be me hiring people to take on those clients. And I think that organic growth is what's required in order to build a proper agency. And yeah, it might take longer than traditional ways of doing it, where you might get a talent in after their shelf life, they're gone and the next one comes in, like a revolving door. I think that's just the wrong way to look at it. I think for us, it's going to be a case of we're going to grow properly. It might take a bit longer, but we're going to get there. And I need every member of staff that joins me to have my same way of looking at it, that every client needs that personal level of attention. Everyone has different goals. We've got 21 clients now at Alpha. I can very proudly say that they're all on different paths. They all want different things, which is a big thing as well. So whilst they might come from the same show, or they might be good mates, or they might want to do similar things, everyone's got a different part or a different niche about them, so that there's still healthy competition. Don't get me wrong, you need that. You need a bit of fire to be able to go up against someone, but there's no two people competing for exactly the same things. And I feel like that's a really important thing to breed as well, so that no one feels inferior to anybody else. Everyone feels like they belong. Everyone feels like they've got an equal part to bring to the table. And just like our Christmas party in December, which was our first ever one that we'd hosted, where we had a few talents had to miss out because of COVID, unfortunately, but a good few were there. And a nice moment for me was looking around the table. And sometimes you'd get a work event, I'm sure we've all been there, a few people on their phones or not really paying attention or just not really in the room. Like they're physically in the room, but they're not there. But I happened to look up and everybody was talking to each other. There wasn't a phone in sight. Everyone was getting on. And these are people from different walks of life, not all from the same show. They're from different backgrounds, completely different families, but they're all around one table. The one thing they've got in common is us. They're managed by us, and they're all getting on and sharing their experiences and having a good time. That was when I knew, again, we're building the right thing. And the key word for me is family. We're building a family, and that's always what I wanted to do.
Brilliant. I love that. That's so
I'm
cool.
tearing up.
Don't cry.
Obviously, you hear this all the time, Jake. Sometimes I hear it, probably not as much as you, but you've got an old head on your young shoulders. I want to talk to you a little bit about your mindset and your attitude and its origin as well, and where it comes from. 'Cause I know your parents and I kind of know a bit about your background, but I'd love to hear from you about kind of where was that mentality instilled? Is it something you developed on your own? Is it something you inherited from your dad or your mum elsewhere? I'd love to know about you. You've got this burning drive inside to keep working and working. You're the only person I've ever known to be in a nightclub in another country on two phones working at the same time.
I thought you were going to say the laptop.
If they'd let him in with a laptop, they would have. Yeah. But he had a phone in each hand, and he was like this, like being agent mode at like 2 a.m. in a club. I was like, only Jake Lee can do that.
I love that.
I'd love to just unpack your brain for a little bit. Not with that story. I would leave that's another episode maybe. But I'd love to talk to you about your mindset and where this drive comes from, this relentless kind of need to you just work so hard. Like, where does it come from?
I think it comes from the fact that I always knew that if I found something that I liked doing for work, I'd never feel like I worked a day in my life. And I always needed to find that. And when I finally had found it, it didn't feel like work to me. So even though you classified that as work, and to the outside person, it looks like it's hard work, I don't see it as hard work. For me, that's my life. I enjoy it. I socialize with my clients, but then that's also constituted in work. So I guess I could be called lucky, but I guess you also create your own luck, and that's how hard you work. And if you work hard, you'll put in positions where luck will find you. And that's something that's always instilled into me. But also books as well. The books we always talk about, Danny, the self-help books, provide you with the tips and the tools and the motivation.
We love a little quote on Instagram.
We do love a quote on Instagram as well. But that keeps me going. A lot of people might look at it and go, why'd you bother sharing it? But as much as it might go out to someone else that might look at it and take inspiration, like I sometimes look at the ones that you guys share or the ones that you, Dan, put up on your page a lot. And that will just inspire me for that day. If I can do that for someone else, then great. I'm not an influencer. I'm not a big person. I'm just somebody. But if I can take inspiration from someone, that means someone can do that from me. But that also holds me accountable, because I'll check my story throughout the day multiple times, and I might need a reminder of looking at that quote that I might have forgotten that I posted this morning, but I'm having a bit of a bad afternoon. So I just jump on there, see it, and I'm back on track again. So it holds me accountable for behaving that way. But I also think a big part of it, and I speak about this with you, Danny, is Entourage was a massive thing for me. A show that not everybody may have seen, but it kind of, it depicted what I wanted to do and achieve. And I remember watching that show when I was doing my A-levels, which is, quite some time ago now, but that was giving me the drive to do what I do now. And it's a completely different setting. It's set in LA, but it's about an agent, it's about a client and his friends. But if you watch it, you can kind of understand why that life is glamorized, but it's also at the same time a humbling thing to be in it now, but to know that it's not always that glamorous, but there are some moments where you do feel like you're in that TV show, you do feel like you're in a movie. And that's what keeps me going, is having those moments and the successes every day. And we're not going to get there if we don't work hard. But for me, to answer your question, the key thing that keeps me going is I don't feel like I'm working. So it's not a slog for me. I don't feel like, oh God, I've got to go to work today, or I've got to do this. I enjoy it. I want to do it. I want to get up in the morning and do it. I want to go to bed at night happy. So yeah, that answers your question.
Yeah. Wow. It's something that we talk about quite a lot as well. It's like I get sometimes quite annoyed when people be like, oh, you're obsessed with work. I'm like, no, I'm not obsessed with work. Like, I'm obsessed with working on something. It's working on something with a purpose, which is what you're doing. Like you said, it doesn't feel like work at all. But there does need to be a balance. There obviously needs to be a balance. You have to keep up good personal standards, personal care. You're in a relationship. You need to do all these types of things as well. How do you find that balance? Do you find it easier, again, because you love what you're doing? It's not like you're stressed up to your eyeballs. What sort of things do you do to manage that? And are there any times where you identify if maybe you are becoming a little bit obsessive and need to take a step back?
I think, if I'm being completely honest, I haven't found that balance yet, if I'm being truthful. I think sometimes work does overconsume me. I do get involved in it, probably too much, but for me, I don't see that as a problem. But I do recognise that sometimes everybody needs some time out. Everyone needs to chill out, go on holiday, take a break, take a weekend off. I struggle with that sometimes, but then other times I have to remind myself that no, you need to do this. You need to switch off when you go to the cinema, or when you go watch football, or you go play football, or play around a golf, or whatever it is. That's the time when you come off your phone. And something I'm going to start, or I'm implementing at the moment, is from the book, The 5 a.m. Club, where they say in the morning when you wake up, ideally they say for the first 3 hours, I don't know how much I'll be able to do that, but for the first couple of hours when you wake up, it's, no technology. And then for the first couple of hours, when you go to bed as well, again, no technology. And that's meant to really help kind of with the self-care element of it. And I think if I implement that structure, I'll then be able to better find that balance. I'm not saying I'm going to be perfect at it, because I feel like a part of me wants to work all the time to always better it and to always make sure that I'm there. But then I think at the same time, you can't just do that for so long, because you'll burn out. You won't be able to hold that level of consistency, and in the long run, it will be, detrimental to you. So I need to think about that as well.
Are there any warning signs when you know if you're maybe? I'm just curious, because I know some people listening might not be able to identify if they're either about to burn out, or if they're maybe taking something too seriously, or whatever. Is there any warning signs, any triggers, anything that you notice when you're like, right, shit, I need to go play around the golf?
I think it's when you start stressing out more than you should do over the little things, and you know that it's little and it's minor and it shouldn't affect you, and on a good day it wouldn't affect you, but on that particular day it does. And when you also struggle to sleep as well, because I've had that before, when you're meant to be going to bed, everything's switched off, it's pure darkness, but your mind is just going, thinking about, right, what have you got to do tomorrow? What did you do today? What did you not get done today that you got to do tomorrow? And the way to help me do that is write a to-do list every day, tick off what I've done, and then make another list for the next day. So if there are, very rarely there are, but if there are a couple of things that I haven't managed to do, just pass them over to the next day, or find a way to,
and not put pressure
not
on
to
yourself.
worry about it. Because if it's in your mind, then it's not. If I write things down, it's out of my mind, I feel better about it. If I know I've got to do something, if I write it down, I won't forget, and I don't feel pressure to not forget. But it's someone once said it to me, that was, if you write down everything you're feeling, it kind of clears your mind a little bit, and then you can just relax. So if you do that before you go to bed every night, it does help. But if I start to struggle to sleep, or I'm constantly stressing over things I shouldn't be worried about, that is a sign to me, right, take some time out, chill out for a little bit, and then come back to it when you feel better, because otherwise I can't do good work, and I need to, for what we do, our industry, Danny will know, and I'm sure you boys know as well, it's ever changing, changes by the minute, changes by the hour, let alone by the day and the week. So you've always got to be up to date with what's going on. And that does unfortunately mean being on your phone a lot, being on social media, looking at it for work, making sure you're up to date with the news and what's going on. So it's important to take those breaks, but at the right time. And I kind of feel like I now know when those breaks are and when they need to be needed. But previously I didn't have a clue. So it was kind of like I was just on, work mode the whole time, and I wouldn't take any breaks. I used to think that taking a break was bad and I shouldn't do it. It means I'm not working hard, but now I know that's not the case at all.
Yeah. And I think what's great as well is now you're growing your team around you as well to sort of chip in and help with the workload. That's something that Dan and I used to talk about ages ago, when I used to say to Dan, like, you need to employ someone, get someone in to help you. Like, you're stressing yourself out, you're burning yourself out. You need to have somebody on to share the burden almost with you. So how has it been now, kind of growing your team for a business which you obviously care so much about, you're so invested in, so involved in? What's it like now bringing an outsider in, probably terrible choice of word, but bringing somebody into your inner sanctum to help grow the business, because you can't do it all yourself. How's that transition been to be bringing somebody back into your team?
It's a tricky one because you can't just go and hire anybody, right? I mean, look, most businesses is quite simple. When you're trying to hire, you've got a certain set of skills that you need. You've got a certain experience you need. Ideally for me, I would have, I wanted people that had experience, and I got very lucky with, Olivia, who works for me now, who was doing the job previously. So it was by pure chance at the time she was looking to leave her current agency, and we managed to grab her. But for me particularly, I feel like anyone that comes on board now, I need to feel like is aligned to, what we said about the mission and making sure that the company values are upheld. And it is a level of trust, like you said, in a sanctum of what goes on within our business. Those people need to be trusted. And it's tricky when you try and hire someone, because you kind of have to make that split decision when you interview them. Is like, can I trust this person? Can they come into my business? Can they add value? And can they maintain the standards that we set? And, I do have an element of OCD. I'm not going to shy away from that. And, I do sometimes struggle to delegate. That's something that I'm having to learn how to do as well, to not have to do everything myself. And thankfully, Liv's great. She does handle a lot of the tasks, and I'm confident in her ability to do that. But yeah, as you say, as we grow, it's now coming to that point where we're looking to get higher again, hopefully by the end of this month, fingers crossed, and then a couple more by the end of the year. And it's finding those people that are going to come on and be on brand, because as much as I need the talents to be on brand with Alpha and be the best they can be, the employees have to be the same, because we're all one. So I can't have anyone letting that side down, and that's going to be the hard part of hiring. But again, I see that as a challenge, and I also think that it's going to be better when I find that person, that it's taken me a long time to find those people, so that I know they're good for the business, and I know that means the business is just going to push on to new levels.
What sort of qualities are you looking for? So obviously you've mentioned trust there a lot, and I think for us the key thing when we get staff on board is we're very, again, not lucky. Lucky's not the right term, because we have created this, but we have people that are bought into the concept. Yeah. When you have someone who is so bought into the concept and believes so much about what you do, of course you need to train them up, but a lot of that takes care of itself. They have autonomy to go off and want to do things and learn, and you never have to micromanage. People will want to actually go out and work for you. It's like a team of many like entrepreneurs within your business, which is absolutely incredible. Obviously you've got that, which is absolutely incredible, but there are certain things that you're going to have to look for with these staff. Another one that you've mentioned there is potentially experience within the industry, but what sort of key qualities are you looking for?
People skills is the main one. Being able to put them in a room with complete strangers and they'll come out with 10 business cards, 15 business cards, whatever, new relationships. That's the job of an agent. We have a roster of talent. Our job when we go out to events and we go and meet people, or even if you're sat in the airport or you're sat waiting for a cab somewhere, or you're in a restaurant and you overhear a conversation, you're not a good agent if you can't adapt to that. You can't make that work for your client. And those I've sometimes found are the best opportunities when you're at an event or you're somewhere, you happen to bump into someone, you've got to take that chance. So someone who's got the people skills and the personality to be able to go and do that, I think is massively important. But also someone who's hardworking, not afraid to work outside the 9 to 5. Our job is not 9 to 5, it's very much 24/7. So the person that comes on board has to understand that. But that might work in their favor sometimes, that some days might be quiet and there's not a lot to do. But then other days you're just, rammed to it. You haven't got a minute to yourself. But those are the days that I'm thankful for, because I like being busy personally. I can't sit and be with my own thoughts for too long, because then I just, I get bored. So I've got to, I've got to be out doing things all the time, feel like I'm being productive. But yeah, the biggest thing for me is the personal skills and the ability to, have the confidence to go and speak to anybody. Yeah. And then the hardworking aspect is a given.
Because we discussed this, was it yesterday? I think we were chatting about it, weren't we? And we discussed basically never miss an opportunity.
Yeah.
Never give up an opportunity. If you're invited to go and do something, just take that chance to go and do it, because you've no idea the relationships that you can build. Like you said, and so much of the time it's an off chance, it's a conversation. This person knows someone else, and that human connection part of networking is absolutely massive. Just getting yourself out there, basically.
Exactly right. It's the trip that we just did, Danny, when you went to Houston. I could have easily not gone on that trip and just said, cool, you go off, do your shoot, do your thing. I put it upon myself to kind of put myself out my comfort zone, really, and to take myself with him to go and meet the client. But then you also don't know who you're going to meet on that trip as well. Even at the airport, when we get to there, you go sit in a restaurant, you might meet somebody. If you put yourselves in those positions that you wouldn't normally put yourself, that's where you find opportunity, and that's where luck can find you. So that's a new thing for me this year. As much as it's obviously great to go to all these places and, see the world, I know there's an alternative motive for going, and that is to see who I can meet, see who I can get in front of. And my key thing this year is put a face to the business and get myself in front of as many people as possible. You know, if we do get the second, the third and the fourth hire, those guys are there, you know, running the business as well, but I'm the one out facing it and, you know, leading the charge for all of my clients to be able to say, right, this is what we're doing. This is what we're about, you know, that we want to do these sorts of campaigns. We want to work with you on this, and kind of really get to meet a lot of people. I don't just want to be sat behind a desk emailing and phone calling. You got to get out, be personable, show a face, and you know, show a personality as well. People buy into a personality. When you're a salesman, you're not selling a product, you're selling yourself. So as much as, don't take this the wrong way, I'm not selling Danny, but like as much as I'm selling, you know, his profile and his ability to do it, you know, if I can't get, he could have
picked you up for like 20 minutes.
He could have the best engagement in the world, but if I'm a bad salesman and I'm not very good at selling, chances are he's not going to get many jobs. So it's got to be that people buy into us as a business, but then when I explain to them Alpha, I explain to them the business behind it, I feel like it gets us a bit of buy-in because they understand what we're looking to achieve. And if they decide to work with any of our talent, they're going to get the same level of service that I'm giving to Danny, the brand is going to get from me as well. The constant contact, being able to always adapt, being always there, you know, being flexible when we need to be, and it will overall be a good experience. And that's another part of the client side that I needed to lock in, was that we get repeat business, which thankfully, and we're very lucky in a position to now get repeat business, but that's from giving off that impression and giving a good level of service to people, which comes from being personable and, you know, being that salesperson.
Brilliant. I'd love to ask you, Jake. So you talk a lot about, you know, getting out your comfort zone, going out there, meeting people, networking, traveling, working hard, putting the hours in with the business. You find that pretty effortless, I'd say, because you enjoy what you do. You love what you do. It's a passion. It's something you care about deeply. How would you advise people who are scared of getting out of the comfort zone, and that's actually the barrier to them going on and achieving their dreams? Because there's a lot of people out there who might be listening who they might have a goal in sight, but in order to get there, it's the networking, it's the asking someone for a chat, it's at a restaurant, or I overheard a conversation, and that could be the very thing that's holding them back from achieving what they want to achieve. I want to know from yourself, do you have any advice or any tips of just getting out of your comfort zone and getting over the line and doing that thing that could be the turning point? Because it's been a huge turning point for you.
Yeah.
Getting out of your comfort zone and just going and doing that thing that does scare you at some point, but getting over that line and doing it can be a huge turning point. Do you have any advice for any listeners for those kind of situations about getting out of the comfort zone?
Great question.
Yeah, very good question. For me, and I still struggle with it now. I'm not sitting here saying I'm the finished article. Sometimes I have to gear myself up to go and put myself in that position. But you can always think of pros and cons. And, you know, in certain situations, your brain might be telling you the cons outweigh the pros. But you've just got to, if you know it's ultimately right, and there's even 1% of you that's saying, I know I need to do this, count down 3, 2, 1 and just throw yourself in and go and do it. So if you're in a restaurant and you see someone you want to go and speak to,
3,
and you're like,
2, 1.
you're just toying up, oh, do I go over? Do I ruin their dinner? Do I not do this? Do I go and introduce myself? Just say 3, 2, 1, walk over, just go and do it. You know, you're only going to learn from doing that. And the key thing for me as well, and another tip, I guess, is I don't want any regrets. So if I'd have walked away from that restaurant and not gone and spoken to that person, that's going to play on my mind for ages that I didn't go and do that. And then all of a sudden, if it was a brand, let's just say, and I see them working with loads of talent the next week or the next few days, I'm going to be like, God, I've missed an opportunity there. I shouldn't have done that. So you're never going to regret things that you do. You're only going to regret things that you don't. So if you remember that when you're toying over whether to put yourself in that position, or you're going up to that person, or you're going to go on that plane and go on that journey, just give yourself a little countdown and say, right, I know I need to do this. 3, 2, 1, just go and do it.
And is that oh, sorry to interrupt.
No, you go. I was just going to say it's received well, isn't it?
Has that ever happened? Just
Oh, big time. Yeah, of course. 100%.
And now that's why you're like the way you are, because there's been a time
I still get times like that. You know, even now I still get times if I'm in a room.
Who's the brand? I want to know.
You know, exactly. No names. Even now I might get in positions where I'm like, right, the obvious thing to me is I know I need to go and do it, but you know, for that reason, for whatever reason on that day, maybe I'm not feeling too great, I'm not feeling up to it. Something in my brain is saying, oh no, don't go and do it. But then ultimately I'm like, right, snap out of that, just go and do it, put yourself in. And then 20 seconds into that conversation, I'm at rest because I know that it was the right thing to do. Even if it was a 1-minute chat and you get a number or you get an email or you just, you know, you arrange a meeting, that's still something than walking out of the restaurant and not speaking to anybody, you know, and that's a trip fulfilled for me. And that's me knowing that I've done the right thing within myself, and I can then go to sleep with no regrets.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, that anyone listening to this that might be struggling with that, all the guests we've had on at some point have said that they've had that kind of element of self-doubt, that kind of nervousness, anxiety going into a certain situation. I think that just resonates, like how natural it actually is for all of us to feel that way in certain situations, no matter how much work you might have done on yourself, no matter how much how many self-help books you've read, or how confident you come across, that it's still a very natural thing to feel that on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely, yeah, it is. And I think it's important to normalise feeling like that. You know, it doesn't matter who you are. I'm sure some of the greatest, you know, entrepreneurs in the world, some of the greatest businessmen in the world, women, they still feel like that. But it's just, how do they snap out of that?
Yeah.
Because it's also, I think it's a quote you once told me, it's like, you know, even on the days that you don't feel like working, you know, those are the ones where you've really got to show up, because that's when it counts.
Yeah.
You're not always going to be motivated. You know, motivation isn't always going to take you places, but discipline will. And if you've got that discipline to be able to work on those days, to be able to go up to that person on the day you're not feeling it, that's where you're going to see the benefits.
Yeah, that's something that we speak about quite a lot, isn't it? You know, everyone, well, not everyone, take that back. Most people feel like they need motivation to take action, but you don't. You actually need to take action in order to find the motivation.
Yeah. Motivation's the reward.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then
absolutely.
that then breeds inspiration from that. It's a cyclical process. You need to take action to drive motivation, to then find inspiration. That's what drives people forward.
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
waiting for it to land in your lap. Yeah.
And it's the whole point of like not being scared of failure, or just putting yourself out there. And then, like you said, what was the very first thing that you said? You messaged absolutely everyone. You got one reply. But even if you didn't get a reply, you've done it. You know, so many
Can't
people
have a
would
regret,
either, so many people would either have not done it, or done that, not got replies, taken it personally, and never done it again. You know, I know people that I've either listened to podcasts to, potentially people who are famous, potentially in the fitness industry and this type of stuff. And they said, who was it? I think it was Jamie Alderton, actually. And he said that he once did a podcast with someone because they asked him like 8 times. And he said it was the 8th time, and he was like, right, fine. He was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And he was like, actually, I liked that. They kept on asking, not in like a badgering way, but they just kept on asking. And he was like, I like that determination. He was like, right, I went and did the podcast. And then interestingly, he said, I should have done it sooner, because I actually then got a ton of Instagram blew up afterwards.
Persistence is key.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Does it make you feel, I suppose you've already answered this, but does it make you feel a little bit awkward, or is it, because it must just be all about the way that then you come across as well. You're not going over and you're not annoying someone. You know, you're actually going over with good intentions, and you know that you have something big to offer as well.
I think, again, the stigma comes into it, because the minute you say what you do, a lot of people look at you in a certain way and go, oh God, you're one of them. and that's before they even know you and they know anything about you. The minute they hear the word agent or manager or anything like that, and they don't know the name yet, so I haven't told them who I am, who I work with, the company, they just hear the word agent. People just assume, they go, great, okay, yeah, this guy's a bit of a dick. But, you know, when you actually start talking to someone, so I know I need a good sort of 30, 45 seconds to be able to explain it, for them people to like, okay, you know, warm to it a little bit, and then you're in, and then once I'm talking, it's not a problem. But yeah, I mean, of course it is sometimes something that strikes my mind is that when I first go over, it's like, I know I'm not intentionally meaning to bother them, but how am I going to come across to them? Because you have to introduce yourself as that person, as that agent, you know, as a manager of Danny or whoever it is, you know, you have to say that. So the initial impression, I know any of our minds, if you were to go and meet an agent, would be like, you would think, right, okay, here we go. But then when you actually start talking to me, I'd like to think that most people just turn around and go, okay, cool, fair enough. You know, he's not like what I thought he was going to be, and I'm glad I gave him that chance, but I'm never going to be put in that position if I don't go up to that person. So I've got to go and do it.
I mean, Dan thought you worked in the gym when we first met.
Exactly. I hadn't even said the word agent then.
We were chatting yesterday, and we were talking about how you'd obviously went over to Houston with Danny, and again, not to bring up what other people's assumption of working is again, but we talked about it, and I was like, a lot of people will then think, oh, it's just working, whatever. But what we discussed yesterday was what you're doing is you are working so hard on something so that you can create the life that you want.
Yeah.
So that, as you discussed earlier, it's no longer work. How important is it for people to understand that they are in control of potentially what they can do and what they can achieve? And how important is it for them to just, go out and get that?
I think everyone, to a degree, can control what they want and what they want to do, and everyone has dreams, everyone has goals, things that they want to achieve. Ultimately, you're not going to get anywhere unless you start. So you've got to start somewhere. That's the biggest thing. But like you said, creating the life that I wanted, of course I want to go and see the world. I want to do all these sorts of things. I'm not naive to think that I can't just take a year off now and go and do that, not when I'm building this. And I don't know how long it's going to be until we're built up to a level, probably never to a level that I'm happy with. I'm always going to want more. But for me, it's kind of like if I can use work to go and travel, I've never been to Houston before, but all right, we didn't go and do sightseeing and loads of tourist stuff, but I've been to the country, I've been to the place now, I've seen it, and I can say that I've been there. And a lot of people, I think, would look at it like you just said, superficially, and would think, oh God, yeah, how easy is his job? He gets to go here, he gets to do that, he gets to do all these nice things, but they don't see the hard work behind that. Yeah. You don't always post everything on Instagram. You don't always post your hardships on there as well. The late nights that you're just doing outreach on emails, the early morning meetings that you're having, all the things that go wrong during the day that people don't get to see that you've got to fix. So the reward, like Danny said, is doing these trips, going to Mykonos. All right, whilst that wasn't work related for us, that was a good release. That was us, building. We did work a little bit, but that was building our friendship and our
two phones.
That was building our friendship and work relationship up even stronger. So to me, even that still feels like work. But the Houston trip was worthwhile for us. Not just because it strengthens Danny's relationship with the brand, but also mine as well. And we get the ability to go and meet them face to face. And I feel like people respect that and they rate it when you especially go and travel that far. I think it was like 10 hours going and like 8 hours coming back. They do respect the fact that you're going to get up from behind your desk and come and put a face to the name. Even if you're going to have a chat, I think we had a conversation for maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, at the end of the shoot. That's all that was needed. That's all you need to do. But it's actually the effort of getting up, going, traveling there, staying only there for a couple of days, even though the time difference is like 6 hours, and then coming straight back. That's what it takes. It's not a holiday. That to me was not a holiday. When I go away to Tenerife for a week, that's a holiday because I'm chilling out. I'm not trying to think about work. I'm not surrounded by anyone at work. I will still work, but I'll probably limit myself to only doing certain hours or something like that. And I'll make sure that I take time to chill out. But for me, the trip that we just did was very much work orientated, and it doesn't frustrate me, but I kind of wish people get that in a way. And I feel like they only don't get it because they're not in that position. Yeah. And people are only seeing that when they're in a salaried job, they are sitting behind a desk all day. And that used to be my, That used to be my way of thinking that's how you considered work. You've got to be behind your desk, you get an hour for lunch, and then you go home at 5:30 and you do it all again the next day. I used to think unless I was at my desk or on the phone, I'm not working, that can't be work. It's not necessarily true now. And I can see that from what we're doing and from what we're building. One meeting, one trip can change everything. So you just got to take the chances and do it.
I love that. That's brilliant. What advice do you have for anyone who's potentially, wanting to, I know the term industry is a very, very broad term. Not everyone will be as lucky, to have Jake Lee looking at them from across the villa. Not everyone, no, but on a serious note, not everyone will be as lucky to have someone like you. What advice would you give people starting out in this industry?
Do you mean starting out in terms of being an agent or in terms of
both?
Okay.
I'd say both, yeah.
If you're going to try and start an agency, like I say, the barriers are still quite low to do it. You just have to be good at forming relationships. So if you can get a leg up in the industry, if you know somebody that's already in it and you can ask for advice or you can tag along to meetings and learn from it that way, then do it. But otherwise, just crack on and do it. I mean, you've got to understand that for the first couple of years, you're probably not going to make the money you think you're going to make, and it's going to be a bit of a struggle. But once you crack past that barrier and you start really building a network of clients and a roster of people that are represented by you, and you start building brand identity, that's when the fun starts. And that's when, like you said, the motivation kicks in as a reward for what you're doing, and it really does start to become fun. And for me, I'm very lucky to say that I love what I do. I really enjoy every single day, and I get to kind of converse with such great people every single day and, fulfill and do what I've always wanted to do. That's a nice feeling. But on the other side, if I was to give advice to talents, people going on shows in the future or people currently on shows that might be looking at how to get a manager or, how do you attract a manager, you've got to kind of find one that you get on very well with on a personal level.
Yeah.
And Danny's probably better to answer this question than me, but for me, it's just go and meet the agent first. Don't make a decision until you've met them. Even if you've got to take a couple of meetings, just do it. Don't make a rushed decision. You don't have to, but make sure that instant connection's there, that friendship is there before anything, that you can trust this person to deal with your work affairs and to handle your business, as well as, kind of be there for you as well, that you can open up to. And you're not going to open up to them on day one, week 1, week 2, whatever. It might take time, but it might take time. But once you've got to that stage that they can open up to you and you can feel like I can tell this person a lot about my personal life, that's when you're in a privileged position that person is also looking after business. But you'll have a better answer than that.
Are there any red flags as well?
I can fully vouch for what you just said, to be fair. I vividly remember like it was yesterday, the first phone call we had. I was sat in my old car now on my dad's drive. And I remember at the time feeling pretty rubbish. And as well, I used to suffer with anxiety when having phone calls with people that I hadn't spoke to on the phone before. I don't really have it anymore, but at the time I used to hate answering the phone from someone if I didn't know them really, really well. So I just let it ring and ring and ring and ring, and then I'd be like, oh, sorry, I missed the phone call, whatever. It doesn't really happen anymore, but at the time I used to get it really bad. I remember when me and you was going to speak on the phone for the first time, and obviously agent, potentially a big conversation, and I maybe I did the 3-2-1 thing, I can't remember, but I remember just doing it. I answered the phone, we spoke, and I remember being very nervous, but I outlined very clearly what I would need from you if we was to work together. I need someone I can trust. It needs to be more of like a personal relationship. I need to feel like we're friends. I want to feel like you're not just my agent, but you look out for me. And I remember reeling these lists off almost in a demanding kind of way, in a way that I would kind of expect you to be put off. So then I could be like, yeah, another agent, just the same. Then I could go, yeah, they're all the same, and end the call and just be managerless again. And you actually, like I said before, you listened, you took it all on board, and you just reiterated and reminded me, like, this is exactly what we do. Like, I think we should meet. And I was like, oh my God, that was great. And it was a great phone call. And then we ended the call, and I was just so excited to meet you. And like you said, meeting people in person is the best way to get a good gauge on what their intention is. So people can speak on the phone and spiel over Messenger and say they're good at this and they'll do this for you. But when you meet them in person, you can really get a good idea of what their intention is. And for me, when I met you, Jake, I instantly knew that your intentions were pure. I think you being the same age as me helped a lot as well, because I'm thinking, you're not going to try and mug me off and rip me off. Like, you're in the same position as me. You're trying to grow, you're trying to build, you're trying to make it yourself. We're on a similar kind of path in that respect. And I felt like we had that kind of shared vision. Like, I almost feel like I work for you. I work for your agency. Sometimes it's quite, especially back then, it was quite weird. I wanted to help you build your agency as well as build my own career. So I think that kind of that intertwined kind of shared vision helped us grow together so much. I
think the age thing, like you just said, is a big thing because it works for you and against you. In the instance you just described, it obviously worked massively for me. But again, it can work against you because people think, right, okay, well, you've got no experience. You know, what can you do? And if you come up against someone that maybe has their parents in the meeting, if they're a young talent, or, you know, someone that's even older, let's just say they're 35 years old and they've been in the industry for a while, and you try and approach them to manage them, they'll just sit there and go, well, hang on a second, you know, you're 24, you know, what do you know? But, you know, some of my clients are that age, and surprisingly enough, they would sit there and go, I don't see you as a 24-year-old, like I see you as the same age as me or even a bit older. But I guess that I've always had that head on my shoulders, but it does work for you, and I'm starting to see it work more in my favor now because people start to understand that you don't have to be 35 to be wise and to be, you know, have loads of experience. You can be a 24, 25-year-old, come across as very credible, come across as trustworthy. But the age thing for me was a big thing because I noticed again when I was in football that most of the agents are of quite, you know, I'm not going to say old, but they're older than us, right? And you've got the players now that are coming through, they're 15, 16, 17 years old. I was struggling to see how a 16, 17-year-old could have the sort of friendship that you and I have with a 45-year-old agent. It's just, it's hard. Yes, they're going to look after them on the pitch and take care of their contracts and stuff like that. But when it comes to actually like the downtime and the chilling out and the talking, just, you know, having a conversation, I can't see how that was going to happen. So that was another gap I noticed, was that in this industry as well, again, on a whole, the talents are usually quite young, you know, 24, 25, 26. That's usually when people go on these sorts of shows. But they also tend to have older agents. Again, do they have that sort of relationship and that friendship? That was what was question mark in my head, is like, can they have that sort of relationship where they phone them up and tell them about their problems, you know, the girlfriend, the boyfriend, what's going on at home? And then it very quickly struck in my head, right, okay, well, if I'm the same age as them and they see me as, you know, one of them, surely that's going to play into my favor. And it quite clearly did. You know, you can build that trust, I think, quicker than you can with an older person because they are going through the same things you are in life. You're at the same, you know, point of your life, and you can kind of go on, like you said, Danny, you can go on that journey and take that path together.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm taking from it as well, it's like, it's disruptive, but in a good way. You identify things, you look at something, whether it's a product or an environment or a way of working, and you look at it and you think, not necessarily to say it's broken, but you look at it and think, I can do that better. Or what's wrong with this? Yeah. What can I change? Where's that came from? Or is this maybe just analytical skills potentially that you can identify something and be like, right, I want to break the mold. I know how I can do this better.
I think it's more a case of you look at it and go, if loads of people are already doing one thing, there's no point in jumping on and doing the same. You've got to fix something for it, and you've got to maybe do a bit of market research possibly. You know, it's like if you're going to go and sell something on Amazon and there's like 10,000s of those products on there already. Look at the reviews. What are people saying that product could do better? Go and make the same product, but fix that problem. And that's then yours will sell. Yours will stand out as being different. And that's what I wanted to do with Alpha, was to make sure we stood out for the right reasons. And we're not the same as every other agency. We're not going to fit the same mold of just taking people on, using them as cash cows and then throwing them out. We're not going to do that. We're going to build a proper agency. We're going to build a family. But that was the key thing missing, was that relationship that one has with their manager. I hadn't heard that from some people, or if I had, it was very few and far between. So it was just building that and, taking that issue that people often complained about, fixing it and putting it into an agency. And from there, it seemed relatively straightforward.
Brilliant. I'd like to celebrate you a little bit.
Thank you.
Everything that you're doing. And then we've got a bit of a challenge for Jake as well, don't we? Now, you're probably one of the only people that actually knows what the challenge is, because you've been here when we've been recording. So Jake's at an unfair advantage. I've seen him; he's been training for this.
Well, we had a leg day.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Which have you recovered yet?
Just about, yeah.
So you've got a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, I'll be okay.
But yeah, I'd love to celebrate you. So, 2 questions or 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell the listeners about some of the other people that you're working with and some potentially exciting things that they've got coming up that you're working on? And then also, I'd love to know what the vision is and what the future is, because you've kind of hinted at the start about this empire, but this empire of positive change as well. Tell us a little bit about the goals, and the way I want you to frame it is, when we are sitting here in 3 years' time, I want you to be saying something now that then you can look back and be like, mind I said that, now I've went and done that.
I like that. Okay, so a bit of accountability. I like that. Okay. Well, to answer the first question, stuff that's coming up, the guys are, like I said, on their own different paths. An exciting thing that Danny is obviously working on at the moment is his podcast, and the relationships that we're building with the likes of an Alpha Elite, and things that when we first started talking, you said I wanted to do that, or this was something that I wanted to achieve, and we can now tick that off, which is a massive thing. And we've literally just had our meeting to set our goals for this year, so we'll let you know in a year's time where we get with that. But other guys as well, I've got a few other clients that are setting up their own podcasts as well. There's a couple of TV shows that are coming out this year. Obviously the Boys show as well has just come out, so there's plenty going on. There's loads of exciting things, and from our perspective as an agency, there's loads of brands that we're working with that I could have only dreamed to have been working with 2 or 3 years ago. I won't mention any names, but there are some pretty big ones in there which I'm looking forward to kind of announcing and getting everybody involved with, so that's cool. Right, the second part of the question, where do I want to be in 3 years? I think I'd like to have different divisions of the business. So I very much see Alpha Talent Group as a group. I see it as that. There's going to be different departments. What we're working on now is obviously the TV reality influencer space, the social media element of it. I would also then like to have a sports division and a music division. It won't be me that runs those, so it's going to be interesting to see who comes on board to help me with that, because the thing that I know I'm good at now is where I'm at now, and I don't ever want to leave there. But to have the agency to then be involved in, certain sports deals that are going on, and, certain music talents as well. I think what I want us to offer is a kind of full 360 approach. So if you sign with us for sport, let's just go and say you sign a player at United, for example, and they also need their social media looking after. Well, we've got another team that can do that. So they come into the one-stop shop. They don't need to go out and, look for a different social media team or look for a different team that can do certain things. We're all in-house. We can do it, and we can all share clients. So whereas one of our clients might be interested in a player that the agent looks after that's also under Alpha, it's easy to connect and access. And I think that's where the word empire comes in, and not in a kind of a funny way, but in a serious way, that you get a player or you get a talent that comes in, all of their opportunities come from one place, and everybody shares out of that. And I think I'd like to have that within the next 3 to 5 years, definitely, that those clear divisions and different people working on those elements of the business.
Do you think, so you've mentioned obviously the social media angle as well, and it's not, we haven't really touched on it this podcast, and obviously the social media and the people that you work with tie in together, right? The two is one. So do you think that what you're doing can change that? So obviously, you'll get lots of people just advertising brands that they shouldn't be advertising, or advertising products that don't work, and all this type of stuff. What you're doing is so different. Do you think potentially the work you're doing that you can really positively influence and potentially change this industry?
Absolutely, yeah. I think Danny will be testimony to that. We probably turn down more work than we take on. And that's something that not often a lot of people hear. But, as an influencer, as someone of influence with a big profile and a big platform, you're going to get approached by all sorts of brands. But if they're not right for you, and, if they don't match up what Danny and I sit down every year and work on as our yearly plan, then it doesn't matter how much money they're offering us, we're going to say no. And I think that's, a stigma that I'm breaking, is that people think that influencers and, content creators just take every deal they get and, they get thrown out at them and they just say, yes, yes, yes. We don't do that. Very clear from the off, I say to people, yes, you're the boss. Yes, you're in charge. You decide whether we do something or not, but we're here to advise. If we don't think you should do something, we're going to say we don't think you should do it. But if you then want to do it, that's fine. We'll do it. But I also want everyone to have an identity. So if there are certain things that one of my clients says, I want to do this, but then in 6 months' time, something comes up that's completely the opposite, I'll remind them of that and say, well, if you remember, this is the path we want to be on. If you take this job, we're going to veer off that path and it could open up a can of worms to go somewhere else. And at that point, I think the light bulb goes off in their head and they're like, right, okay, I get it now.
I love that about us, about the agency, is that we quite clearly kind of created a roadmap to where I want to end up. And I'm sure you do it with everyone else as well. There's a roadmap. Here's where I want to end up. Here's how we get there.
Yeah.
And then we need to get through these steps. And then things that come in, and it's interesting you say, like, no one knows the jobs that you say no to. No one ever knows about besides me and you. Like, from the outside looking in, you would never know all the things we've turned down, despite the money that's being offered, despite if everyone else has done it besides you. No one knows. People just assume you just didn't get offered it, right? Because they wouldn't know. But we quite clearly have a roadmap. Here's where I want to end up and here's how we get there. And it doesn't matter if it takes 1 year, 10 years, that's where I want to end up. And I love how we have this kind of vision. And it's like, I don't care if someone's offering $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, whatever it might be. That's the vision and that comes first. That's a priority. And I think that's probably the most unique thing about Alpha Talent is that a lot of other agencies, they might think they do that. And then the deal comes in and it's like, oh God, it's a good bit of money, that good bit of exposure, that. Maybe you just do this one. And that really is the biggest difference, I think. Obviously, it's great, the trusting and the friendliness and the family vibe that you're creating. But I think almost just tips that is that, like, you have that unerring, like, when you're not doing it, it's not part of the plan. Forget the money. This is what you want to achieve in life. This is what's going to make you happy.
Yeah.
And I love that about Alpha.
Yeah, it's important, definitely, because otherwise you can very easily veer off that path and you can very easily lose your way because, you, like you said, just this one leads into another one and then another one and another one. And yes, your bank balance is going up, but your goals and what you want to achieve are just becoming further and further away from your grasp and you can't reach them. And that ultimately, in, like you said, however long it takes you to get there, if you may never get there if you do those little ones along the way and you hit those speed bumps along the way, you may never get to where you want to be. And then you look back and go, actually, that job that I took back then that seemed quite big at the time that has now stopped me from getting this one, I shouldn't have done it. And that's why I always try and make sure that pathway is clear for everybody. And again, it's an element of, I don't need to do a lot in that initial meeting. Like you said, I would sit there and say to Danny, what do you want to do? This is your career, this is your life, what are your goals, what are your dreams? We're here to make it happen.
Blew my mind, by the way. Sorry to keep bigging you up, you're going to walk away from it. Best agent in the world. Smashing it. But it blew, I can't stress enough how much it blew my mind, because at that point, all I knew of agents was they are there to make you money, no matter what that looks like, no matter in what capacity. If they're making you money, they're doing their job. So when Jake said, what do you want to do? I was like, wait, what? You're not going to tell me what I'm going to do. You're not going to tell me what's the best path for me. You're not going to say, right, this is how many followers you've got. This is how well he was received in the public eye. Here's what your path looks like. That's genuinely how I thought it worked. And I know it's how a lot of people think it works too. And a lot of agents exploit that lack of understanding. And instead of exploiting that, Jake just said, well, what do you want to achieve? What are your passions? What are your hobbies? What do you like doing? And let's try and build a career around those passions.
Yeah. You get much more, I guess, sense of reward from achieving something that was meant for you rather than not. Anyone can celebrate getting a big deal in for a brand. It's easy to celebrate that at the time and go, yeah, great, cool, we got this amount of money. It's great, it's going to set me up for this. I might be able to buy a house with that money, a deposit, whatever. But it's even nicer when you celebrate something that was always on the plan and it was always something that you wanted to achieve together. It doesn't matter if that was even, something that comes up for half the money that you initially got offered for the first job, but it still feels better because you've always wanted that one thing rather than something that comes up that you didn't necessarily want, was never part of the plan, and you can't be swayed by money. It's very easy to, in this industry, get swayed by the big figures that get thrown around and think, great, yeah, I should just take that. It's fine. I need that money. But if you don't chase the money, it will come and find you if you're doing the right thing and you're doing what you're meant to do. The biggest mistake people make is they try and chase that money straight away. And they think because they've been on that show or because they've got this platform that it's almost like a sense of entitlement. Like they should be getting those offers and they should be taking those offers. But the reality is, whilst you can get those offers through and that's great to have them, doesn't mean you have to take every single one.
Yeah. me and Ben had a wee moment there about a minute ago when we looked over.
We had very many moments.
Yeah, we looked over the table and I made eye contact with Ben, because one of my favourite things about that was, just quickly going back, was that roadmap that you lined out, because this is what you do, this is what Ben does. So many people think, right, I'll do this and then I'll work out the next what I do from that and that, but having this end goal and that plan, that strategy is so important. This is something that Ben has taught me loads, because I run into traffic and I'm like, it'll sort itself out. Oh, fuck it. I've taken a risk. It's great. But having that and then working, then it's like planning those steps.
It actually makes it so much easier to be disciplined with your goal when you have the roadmap.
Yeah.
Like, we never know how much a client might be willing to pay or how much they want in return, or what the job consists of. But when you've got a roadmap, and the roadmap consists of where you want to end up and the steps to get there, and that's it. I'll never forget, I won't name the name, but we worked at the brand last year, and it was one of the probably the top 3 brands we'd ever want to work with in my whole life. It was one of the biggest brands. When it came through, I was so excited. But what no one ever knows is that the fee wasn't that good, and I spent all my money on the photographer, on renting a location for it, and buying accessories and just making sure that the shoot was as good as it possibly was. And I actually ended up breaking even on that shoot. I earned no money, but it was a brand that I loved so much that I did it. And for me, that was one of the highlights of my whole year. And because it aligned with the vision, it aligned with the steps, and it aligned with the roadmap and the goal. And I can't stress enough to anyone listening, like, you get so much more satisfaction out of doing that, about landing something you actually wanted in the first place, over taking a short-term win that might earn you more money or get you more extrinsic satisfaction.
Love that. I think one of the next steps that we've discussed previously is to create the roadmap, I guess, to get to Soccer Aid.
I didn't know where he was going.
Right, so
I was wondering when this was going to get dropped in, and you brought it when Jake's here as well. Brilliant.
That was the challenge, that I thought it would be good to set a different challenge from the head-to-head challenge.
I was thinking, what roadmap is he on about here?
The roadmap to Soccer Aid. So first of all, I think we need to get new boots.
Just a bit of clarification for the listeners.
I need some background here. What's going on?
Background, not just for Jake, but for anyone listening. Ben and Dan are determined, right? They're determined to get me on Soccer Aid to play in the match. It might not be anytime soon, maybe in 10 years, who knows, maybe 20 years, we'll make it happen. But these lads are determined to get me on Soccer Aid, so we're going to, are we launching a campaign?
Yeah, I'll
share my highlights from all my Sunday league games when I was a kid on my socials every Saturday until it happens.
Just get a little reel going.
Yeah. Jake, it's your job to get in contact.
It might be a good time to bring that up while Jake's in the room.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good time,
If you're listening to this episode, go into Danny's socials and go into mine and go into Ben's and Jake's, and we're going to be sharing videos of Danny playing football. The
one highlight that I've ever done, I'm going to replay it on a loop.
I've seen you on the pitch. You're not bad. You're a good player. You are a good player.
I think it is. Is it Robbie Williams that organises Soccer Aid?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, Jake, that's your.
That's the target.
That's the mission.
That's the target. I'll add it to our list this year.
That's
don't
another
worry.
step added to the roadmap. That's just the end vision. That's it. That's just changed.
That is
forget everything we've ever talked about, Jake. Scrap it. The end map is that's Soccer Aid.
Let's make it happen.
Once we get that, I'm done.
Step 1, new boots.
Hang out your boots.
Yeah. Step 2, new Man U kit.
Yeah. I think we need some bibs for training, some cones.
On that note, on training. Right, Jakey boy, we've got a wee challenge for you.
Okay, let's do it.
We've as you know, you already know what it is anyway. I'm going to explain it for anyone.
We'll outline the challenge anyway.
Yeah, we'll outline it anyway for anyone that's new. So essentially, every single guest comes onto the podcast, we have a challenge for them. As you know, Happy to Health also stands for head to head in this scenario. So we've created a head-to-head challenge. There's a leaderboard. Essentially, what the challenge is, we need you to hold a squat.
Okay.
For 60 seconds.
God, if you'd asked me to do this a few days ago, I'd be in a mess.
We've missed the trick, haven't we, boys?
I'm actually okay today.
As you are holding that squat, we are going to ask you as many questions as possible.
Yep.
However many questions you answer correctly, or answer in general, because we're not really keeping tabs on whether the answers are true or not.
Oh no, I think we learned over the last couple of days, some people actually just lie.
Oh really?
Just to get the answer out quickly. I think it's a great tactic.
Yeah.
Just get an answer out.
I feel like when you want to get the answer out quickly, you just say the first answer that comes to your head. So you haven't got time to think about lying.
Yeah.
Just, it's there.
Yeah. And then hopefully that'll give us some funny answers as well. So however many you get is going to be your score. If you can't hold it for 60 seconds. No one hasn't done that yet, by the way, so no pressure. No pressure.
In fact, Pete Cohen did it with an injury, did he not?
Oh yeah, did he not? He's a torn...
He done ligaments in his knee.
torn,
oh wow.
So he managed it, so
Okay, well, I've definitely got to do it then.
no pressure.
If Pete can do it.
Just the fact that we trained legs a few days ago is not an excuse.
No, it's not an excuse anymore. No, no.
If you can't hold it for the whole time, then your score will be the total amount of questions that you've answered.
Cool.
Answered correctly. We don't have any questions loaded up, so we could just make some questions up as we go. That could be
this is a
fun.
new one.
This is a new one then, isn't it?
Why
This
don't we
might
go?
affect his time though. I'll be fair to Jake. That might affect his time if we're just thinking of questions, or we just go for it anyway.
We just go for it. We'll go.
We're gonna go in. Okay.
And we'll just go. So it'll be Ben, you, me, Ben,
Okay.
you, me, Ben, round, and we'll do that for 60
These
seconds.
questions are going to get really funny because I can't think of quick fire questions.
I feel like I'm at a disadvantage here with the times. It might take you like 5 seconds to think of a question.
I think this is fair because you actually know what the challenge is.
Yeah,
that's fair enough. That's
And to
true.
be
That's
fair,
true.
you've probably heard the questions
true.
before.
Yeah.
I think I helped write them, so yeah.
Right. Okay. We will get
Who's timing?
Danny, do you want to time?
Oh no! Oh, can I not? Because I was going to write a list of questions quickly.
I will time.
For me, if I don't fail to prepare to fail.
Yeah. Right. I'm very quickly writing some down now as well.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right. Jake, come round here.
Next to you.
Yeah. Come round next to me.
Okay.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay. Right.
Move that out of the way.
Okay. Brilliant. Will we go for it?
Tell me when I'm ready.
Ben, you want to start? You want to start the timer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we ready, boys?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I've got some good ones. Right. I've
You
got some
both
good
said
ones.
yes, but you're both still typing.
Quick answers, right? I'm not going
Yeah. Quick as you can.
Yeah, these are quick.
Right.
Who's keeping? Well, right. You two just ask the questions, and I'll keep count because
Yeah.
nobody's going to keep.
Oh
track
shit!
of it.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Someone's got to keep.
Wait, say that again. I can't multitask. I
I'm under
cannot.
pressure now.
I'm at this typing. I cannot multitask.
Yeah, I'll keep the time,
And then just me and Dan are asking questions.
yeah,
Okay.
because
So you do the time and keep track of the score.
Yeah.
Yeah. you
Okay,
can
cool.
score.
Right, everybody calm down. Right.
Right.
Take a minute to breathe.
Take a minute.
Right.
You got more stressed
3,
out than me,
2,
don't you?
1.
Yeah, why am I? Yeah.
Oh, see, this is good, right? So what I'm doing is I'm writing some questions, and every so often I'm just firing in a "and why" at the end.
Oh.
So you need to give context.
Cats
as
or
well.
dogs, and why?
Yeah, and why?
Because I've got a dog.
Oh, brilliant.
Well, you can't do what Matt did and just shout Roy Keane for like 4 answers.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Right, we'll get ready to go. Right, Danny, you go
I'm
first.
ready,
and
I'm
we'll just
ready.
go back and forth, okay?
Danny looks tough with his questions.
Right.
Okay, right, Ben, let's get ready
Okay,
to go.
3, 2, 1, go.
Favorite type of training and why?
Oh, arms and chest. And because it just makes you get pumped.
Yes. Favourite movie and why?
Oh, Wolf of Wall Street, about business, and I like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee all day long.
Favourite age growing up? For you?
18, I think.
Sugar or sweetener?
Sweetener.
Football team you dislike the most?
Arsenal.
Which is more important, diet or exercise?
Diet.
Celebrity crush?
Margot Robbie.
Ooh.
Easy.
First word that comes into your mind when I say mindset?
Happiness.
Brilliant.
Love
Favourite
that.
colour?
Blue.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Favourite number?
3.
Favorite holiday destination?
Miami.
Oh, that was my next one. Favourite food and why?
Oh, favourite food.
Time.
My next one was a golden. My next question was, do you sing in the shower? And I want to know. I want to know anyway. Bonus question.
Answer it anyway.
No.
And I hope the microphone picked up. Was it your knees or your ankles? That
Oh, at
clicked
the
when you
start
went-
there. Oh,
They
yeah.
decided to go. Oh, God, yeah. I was struggling there for a
Well,
little bit.
your legs are going to buckle again.
Yeah. a
Yeah,
little
when you
bit,
first
yeah.
went into it, I was just like,
No. Yeah,
He-
it took me a
Jake-
while.
Jake is 24, by the way,
Yeah.
but he's got the knees of a 44-year-old.
It's hereditary, all right?
what do we get?
I counted 12 there, but
Oh,
we
good
might need
innings. Is that
good?
a steward's inquiry potentially. But I
Do we
counted
need
12.
VAR?
We might
a little
need
bit of
VAR.
VAR, yeah. Get one of that going.
12. Brilliant. Jake? Thank you so much. That was incredible,
Thank
wasn't
you
it?
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Loved it.
I could chat all day to you know.
Oh, no, we can. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, this has basically just been us chatting as a we normally did anyway, so.
We just recorded it.
Quickly before we finish off then, if anyone would like to contact you about anything, or if anyone would like to see some of the incredible work that you are doing, where can they find you?
So Instagram is just at Alpha Talent. Mine is Jake Lee 28, and then the website is just alphatalentgroup.co.uk. We share everything the guys do on social media. We put it on TikTok, on the website as well. So that's where you can see everything.
Brilliant.
Jake, thank you very much.
Guys, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for coming on, and I'm really looking forward to coming back in 3 years' time and seeing where your divisions are.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Boom.
Done.
Nice. Well done, boys.
Are we going to keep recording this bit like we said? Or
Yes.
Shall we?
Let's keep recording.
This is like the outtakes bit.
Yeah. No, just like we're just going to keep chatting about how we thought that went and stuff.
Top boys.
Yeah, top man.
Yeah.
Very good.
Good hustle.
Nice, boys. Well done.
Good hustle.
That was
Well
brilliant,
done, boys.
mate.
That was class. Really good.
I enjoyed that.
It's hard because I feel like I want to ask you like a million questions, and it's hard to keep it in a certain like category. And also, with this Happy to Health, I want to keep it kind of health oriented.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
It was coming back to health though and help.
I tried to bring it back a little.
Yeah,
You did the whole mindset thing and the 3-2-1 thing.
What sort of thing? What other questions were you?
Like, I want to ask more like work related questions, but also like people don't need to know that because we've got a working relationship. But I want to kind of get people to. Sorry, I want you to give some of your tips and advice and gems that have helped you get to where you are.
Yeah.
But part of what I want to ask you is like, I don't know, like where do you see the business going and like what do you want for your future and that kind of stuff, which could be beneficial, but also
Probably for a business podcast, though, I guess.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I feel like we've got the right amount out for that, though.
Oh, there's a challenge. Get Danny on Soccer Aid. Get Jake on Stephen Bartlett.
That could be a good challenge. That could be a very good challenge.
manifest it, but I can fully see it. I can see it.
Put it out there enough.
Get Jake on The Apprentice, but as in one of the, not a contestant sitting next to.
Next to Alan Sugar.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Or
Wouldn't
take it over from that Alan
But you're
Sugar.
both Spurs fans.
Both Spurs fans, that's true. Yeah.
Unlucky.
One of my questions, one of my other questions, but I didn't get to ask you, Jake.
Go on.
If you had to give up one, which would it be?
Oh, this can be football or something else, isn't it?
Tottenham
Oh,
or the agency?
Oh no, he's done.
Tottenham's going. It's got to go.
Oh, it's the
Tottenham has to go.
I have to
Yeah.
check yeah, it's the correct answer.
Yeah, it's the correct answer. Yeah.
Alpha will probably win more trophies, to be fair.
That is very true. It will. Please God. Very true. Yeah. Hopefully our cabinet's looking healthier than Spurs is.
Got more chance of making some decent signings as well.
More funds available. Oh man!
Oh, brilliant!
No,
that was really good. I really enjoyed that.
Really awesome. I've really enjoyed that. I think it's great for us as well because we know you pretty well now. But there's still things that like we didn't really know, and to find out that stuff again, just to celebrate your journey is awesome because we've not been there from the start, but we feel as if we've witnessed this boom.
Yeah, of course.
And it's been so noticeable, and I love that because I love it.
It's so nice because especially in our industry, you meet a lot of not to like slag people, but you meet a lot of people who get short-term success, money, deals, whatever, and it looks all great from the outside looking in, and you get a little bit disheartened because they sometimes step on other people to get there, or they pull dodgy strings to get there. And it's so refreshing to see someone like you do it the right way. You just work hard.
Yeah.
You're nice. You do your job properly. You care about people, and then you're becoming what you're becoming. It's great.
No, I appreciate it.
Have you had? You might not have had this. I'm basically just comparing it to some of the stuff that we do. Have you had any criticism for anyone about this way of working, or anyone that's maybe not understood it or thought, or maybe even been like, oh, you shouldn't get too attached?
Definitely that thing. Yeah, about the attachment thing, about people just saying, oh, you work too hard. You have a balance, because a lot of my mates have got 9 to 5, so they're living for the weekend. We can go out Saturday, Sunday, get written off on a Friday night and a Saturday night, and then chill on Sunday and come back to work. So I can't do that. If as we were saying when we were away as well, in terms of drinking and going out, you have to kind of have them more few and far between now, because if I'm going to go out on a Friday night, I'm pretty much writing off my Saturday and probably my Sunday as well. Nothing to do with just the way in which you go out. It's just the fact of what it is. You just don't feel as good the next day and the day after, so it probably takes 2 days to recover. So you kind of have to logically think about these things. So I said for me this year, unless it was like a major event, like a wedding or my birthday or something like that, or Christmas, I'm just trying not to drink and cut that down, because otherwise you're spending too many useless nights just going out, chasing a good night by having drink, but then the next day you need to be up productive. You just can't do it. So a lot of people do say, like, I don't understand why you work so hard. Like, you know, why can't you just do like Monday to Friday? Why do you have to work on the weekends? But it's that extra effort and going that extra mile that gets you to where you want to be.
Has anyone said anything negative about being too attached to the guys? Because I think for me it's a no-brainer. Like, you invest.
My girlfriend.
Yeah, my missus.
Is that Jake again? Leave him alone.
Well, the funny thing about that now is I actually manage your girlfriend as well. So she can't argue that anymore. So I've done you a favour.
I think that was just her way of accepting her fate. Like, if I sign with Jake, maybe I'll get more of Danny back.
No, I don't think anyone negatively says anything about it. I think they kind of just maybe struggle to understand again why one of them may phone me with an issue or something that's nothing to do with work. It might just be something they're going through personally, but you know, that's part of the job. You know, that's how you build the trust. So that they probably understand that.
To correct you make it part of your job.
Yeah.
It's not actually.
No, it's
you're a manager. You're a manager, and then you do loads of other stuff which is so valuable that doesn't come under the realm of manager. No. It comes under the realm of friend and like PA almost to some extent. You're just like, it's mad.
Wow. What an incredible conversation. I know Jake like the back of my hand, but I learned a lot about this conversation, about him and where he sees everything going for himself. I'm taken aback, really. That's an incredible episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed speaking with Jake. If you did enjoy it, all support will be greatly appreciated, whether it's a review, a like, a share. If you think someone can benefit from this conversation, please share it with them. We'd much appreciate it here in the studio. And if you follow us on Instagram at Happy to Health Podcast, we'd also love that as well. So until next time, see you soon, guys.